Hello, I'm Stephen Davidson. Welcome to the 21st edition of Looking Back on a Life That Didn't Happen, recorded from Edinburgh to LA and starring Canadian comedy hero JJ Whitehead. On this magnificent show, I talk to comedians about a life they haven't actually lived, an alternative history they know absolutely nothing about. No guest ever sees the questions in advance, they survive on wit, imagination and nonsense, discussed as always in a very serious manner. Thank you so much to JJ for his time. He also has a great new comedy album out at the moment on Apple Music called Live Before Lockdown, which is well worth checking out. On with the show! JJ, a very warm welcome to Looking Back. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
JJ, you join us on the day that your autobiography hits the shops. Why is it called I Am the Dog But Not the Fish?
Well, I mean, for those of you who haven't followed my career closely, of course, I was in that double act many years ago, Dog and Fish. And to this day, of course, the fish was the funnier, more comical one. I get it. I was overshadowed very much in our careers. But I still get people who confront me, and congratulate me on my role as the fish. I spent so much time correcting people over it and pointing out that it's me, I'm the dog. And I thought, as many of us have to do when we release our autobiographies, I thought I would clarify everything on the title page because that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they talk to me through my career. So it's just nice to clear the air.
And you're packaging the book with a free belt, Jason. Why is that?
Well, who doesn't need a belt, right? In all the traveling I did, working with Dog and Fish all those years and stuff, one of our biggest inconveniences as we've been traveling around is the loss of a belt. I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone through airports and airport security, and I always remove my belt buckles. As you know, I do love my belts, identify myself around them. When I was the dog, everybody got to know me for my big dog belt that I had, and I would always lose them in airports. I think fans got to know that I was usually arriving in another town trying to find a place to purchase a belt. So I thought I would look out for everybody else in the way that I wish society looked out for me. And I think that it's a perfect pairing. It complements where I've been with my career, and it gives the fans something that I know that they'll want, that they'll be able to use, and that'll always remind them of myself.
So I hadn't realised that, JJ. My researchers had said that it was just a belt, but it is actually a replica then of the big dog belt that you used to wear back in the day, is it?
Yeah, it's a token souvenir so that people can hark back to the times. It's something they can identify with, and I think it's proven quite popular. So I did tell in some stores they did run out of the belts, and so I have heard this as well. So this isn't new information. I mean, this is a problem with the rollout of the book. I was unable to see exactly how popular it would be. I didn't realize we would run out of the belts. And in fact, the factory that was building them ran out of the mold. Like, they threw out the mold just assuming 1,000 belts would do. So I can only apologize to people who have bought the book and then merely received one of these $5 or £5 valued little strip belts. But sorry, that wasn't my decision. That was the publisher's decision. And so I'm sorry that they made that kind of decision to start fulfilling people's orders. Hopefully it didn't happen with too many people. Hopefully everybody got the legitimate collector's item. They're all enumerated on the inside in the leather band, and hopefully for the most part people receive those correctly. I mean, I've asked the publishers to make it up to people, whoever they sent out these sham belts to. It was a bit of an embarrassing incident.
And I didn't want to bring this up, JJ, but I will. Yesterday, the Hollywood Reporter, the Sunday Post and The Guardian all led with the headline, "Whitehead bans summer fun," in response to your decision to buy up all of the UK's beaches and ban people from the seaside. You're quoted as saying, "It's not about the virus. I didn't even know there was a virus." Why have you done this?
I had to force the people of Britain to start to look elsewhere for beach activities. It's time that, I spent so much of my years in Britain. It's just remarkable the way we flock to the coast and the rocky beaches of Britain and still want to convince ourselves that we're having a proper day at the beach. And as you can understand, this drove me nuts in my time in Britain. And I can't think of any other way to force the people of Britain to expand their knowledge of beaches, other than not allowing them access to their own beaches, so that maybe, in theory, they have to start looking over the fence and looking towards other places, maybe visiting other beaches so that they can get those kind of experiences. Sometimes that's the only way to impart this kind of wisdom to people. You can't wean them off of something. You have to go straight in, make a full commitment. Okay, you're not going to learn, so I have to take this away from you in order for you to now go out and get the experiences to teach yourself.
And finally, in the present day, JJ, we've received a letter from Brad Pitt begging us to ask you to sing a couple of lines from the song that you're going to be singing at the wedding of Dustin Hoffman.
Oh, old Dusty?
Are you willing to do that for him?
Of course. I'll do anything for Dustin. It's remarkable. We've kept it a secret between ourselves. Had a few interactions with him over the last couple of months as we've been walking through the song. I mean, in some of these other interviews I've been doing, they've been asking me to sing verses and to tell people exactly what we have planned. But I promised it to Dusty. I promised him that I would withhold all of these truths, all of these facts. I'd withhold it until the moment, so that it is more special for them in that moment, because it's taken a lot of work. It's been a great commitment. I mean, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure that he even came to me in the first place to ask me to do this, because we go way back, but I can't. It was such a compliment, and I'm staying true to my word, on his behalf, because he asked me to keep it on the down low, but it's going to be exciting. It's exciting times.
The time has come, JJ. Are you ready to dig the tunnel of reminiscence back to the beginning of your life?
Let's do it, man. I think I'm prepared.
Okay, you are born Jason John Brownbread on the 5th of July 1969. Your parents are picnic rug maker Agatha Prince and notorious assassin Derek Brownbread. How did those guys get together?
Well, as you know, every notorious assassin, like my father was not a good man. Let's face it, a bad reputation. His number one routine, he didn't stray much from the stereotype of what his job was. So as you can assume, he and his, I hate calling them a gang, because that was more of a media term that they tried to put on the Brownbreads. And, sure, he wasn't well behaved, but when they did, once again, I hate the way the media says this, but when he would do a killing, as they say, or some murders, of course, one of his favorite motifs was to roll people up in rugs and carpets. And what he's telling me is, back in the day, there was a great shortage, he was so busy with his work. He told me he was going through easily 10, 15 rugs a week, and he couldn't find a way to outsource to find more quality rug, because it has to be a good enough quality to hold a full body in most cases, unless you're going to split up the body, to disperse it in different destinations. But for him, he was actually, it's quite a meet cute, really. He was looking for a new supplier for all these rugs that he needed to use, and just happy coincidence that he started to coordinate with this rug manufacturer, and it turned out that my mom was the daughter. It was quite sweet. He told me that he went in there to try to get more rugs to increase the inventory that he and the gang, or as they called them, were getting, and that's where he met my mom. And apparently it was love at first sight, as they tell me. So very sweet.
You were born in Cantown in Canada, which is of course famous for all of its residents speaking backwards. Can you remember the first sentence that you managed to put together at the tender age of 3?
Well, it's funny. My parents still think that it was some sort of palindrome that I came up with. But when I said "I die," I wasn't actually mocking one of my father's victims at the time. I don't know how it came out of me, but my mom is thoroughly impressed with the fact that I just spewed out this "I die" paradigm. I always try to avoid pointing out to her that "die" actually has an E on the end, but leave it to my mom to, she knows how to spell palindrome, but she doesn't know actually how to spell "I die." It's still a very proud moment for her. She tells everybody that I said it in a mocking fashion. I don't feel that I did at the time, but then again, I was 3. Who knows how I was processing everything that was happening in front of me. But they've had it engraved on my little booties. They had them bronzed a long time ago now. I had it bronzed a good 20 years ago. They're still sitting on my parents' mantelpiece with the inscription, "I die," under it, and misspelled, of course. But, whatever makes the parents proud, there's no point in trying to, correct it.
And yeah, I mean, if anyone knows this, it'll be you, the man obviously known as he of the golden boots around Cantown. But is the language, the backwards language, is it just spoken in Cantown? Or do people from Cantown, do they speak it abroad? Or does it stop at the town boundary, the backward speaking?
We try to keep it self-contained. We're very traditional and everything, and we try to keep all these traditions within the boundaries of our town. This was something that was easier to do in the 70s and 80s, so I'm told. But now, as time has gone on, I mean, we're very much in the era now where they're traveling easier, communications become easier. It's been hard to keep the language within the confines of our town. We have noticed that it's grown. I even encountered like a small community in Southern California has also taken on the language, and we weren't aware that they had evolved, but it's actually a distant relative who moved here in the 80s. So he starts his own community with our language. I'm not sure if there's going to be repercussions for this, but it has been very hard to keep things contained. I mean, the world wants what the world wants, and sure enough, our language has gradually broken all these barriers, and it's just spreading everywhere. Sometimes it's a pleasant pocket, like if you're all of a sudden you're having a drink in some random bar. I remember it happened to me in Holland, having a drink in a random bar, and up walks another member from Cantown. You're blown away when you can encounter those things in such a distant part of the world. So we might as well embrace it, I think we've realized. The language is going to go where the language wants to go.
And at the age of 5, JJ, your dad is jailed for shooting dead the mayor of Cantown with a crossbow from 300 metres away. And our condolences to the mayor's family, but what a shot from your dad. Mum Agatha took you to visit Derek in Pinkways prison every weekend. You've previously said that you would rather have been making mustard than seeing your dad. What did you mean by that?
Well, that's another common phrase that we use in Cantown. And I mean, I guess I was being a bit of a petulant child at the time, because of course the term making mustard, it's not a compliment. It's as a contrast. We dislike mustard so strongly in Cantown. In fact, it's banned all through Cantown. We're more of a mayonnaise ketchup type community. So thus we started to coin the phrase, of course, not in backwards speak, but so that even an outsider of the village can tell when we're upset. So the term, "I'd rather be making mustard," is a contrast, because that's the worst possible activity that anybody from Cantown could picture doing. It's against our will. So obviously this is something that as a child, I didn't really understand what was going on. And it sounds kind of stubborn now that we've had to deconstruct this in retrospect, but that would have been the conceit behind it, is that I was probably throwing a strop and saying to my mom, "Oh, visit my father, I'd rather be making mustard." Like, I might as well have been swearing to her face when I say things like that. When anybody from Cantown refers to that, it just means they would rather be doing anything anywhere else or being anywhere else. I'd rather be making mustard.
Junior school sees you winning a Canada-wide competition to design a new national flag for Canada, which of course went on to replace the maple leaf design. You won with a picture of 2 pigs surrounded by monkeys and white stars. I mean, it's great, but what relevance does it have to Canada?
Well, I went to the panel, the Canadian flag panel, and it took a while to get it through because they were quite shocked at my concept, the conceit of it. But luckily, and I have Britain to thank for this, in fact, England, I was able to point out to the Canadian flag panel that even in England, they have 3 lines on their shirt, on their football team shirts. So all the cynicism of the Canadians, they were like, this doesn't represent our country. This doesn't make sense. Nobody thinks of pigs when they think of Canada. And I was just like, well, we have pigs. Maybe we should expand our thought of the way the world sees us. And I was able to just point at England and go, look, they're older than us, and they're not having this kind of crippling logic, to trying to drive forward and find a new contemporary flag or a new contemporary symbol to identify behind. They don't even have lions. I'm not sure if they have a roadside zoo or something. Maybe 1 or 2 people in England has a lion, and that for them was enough to go, well, we're fine with identifying behind 3 lions. Once I presented all of this evidence to the Canadian Flag Council, you can imagine they got swept up in the knowledge right there and then. And that pretty much was the determining factor that helped me push the new symbol through. So I was pretty proud of that moment. It was really good.
It was a great win. In the film of your life, JJ, the first dramatic scene involves you fighting Justin Trudeau in the playground. Did that actually happen? And if it did, what was it about? And did you win?
Nobody wins. Nobody wins a fight with Justin Trudeau, actually. You know, he is part sentient, which is, it's maybe not as commonly known, especially in the current political environment. So as real as it is, I mean, I have come to blows with Justin a couple of times, but with him being part sentient, he's not somebody that you want to have an extended fight with. You will suffer a serious injury. So you have to keep that in mind. And that has happened to a lot of people, dare I say victims, in the past who have gotten cocky and have gotten into extended combative situations with the Prime Minister. So it's really a reflection of that, a reflection of the truth. I mean, some people start to think it's a wives' tale when they hear about these things. And I just wanted to put it out into the world so that people can start to realize, oh, this is a real situation. These are real things that happen. Justin Trudeau is out there and he will fight you. And as is the case in most instances, as it was with myself, you will lose if you continue, if you extend the fight. Anything more than a minute and a half, you know, his sentient abilities kick in, and by then your human self is just exhausted. So it's good to get the knowledge out there, because many people don't realize you should avoid hand-to-hand combat with our Prime Minister.
Your mum isn't happy about the fight though, and Agatha, hoping to give you a fresh start, she relocates to Arkansas in the States. And within a week of starting at Happy Joy High School, you are hanging out with Cher, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Elon Musk. What were those guys like to have as classmates?
Oh, yeah. They called us the Get Along Gang, which was wild. I mean, we didn't look like we belonged together at all. Talk about a weird-looking foursome when you run into us. They were absolutely fantastic, though. They all held each other in check, as I'm sure you could understand. Arnold, of course, was our fitness front man, so for the group, and then Cheryl and I quite wafy, so we always needed him to have our backs. So whenever we were getting heckled or bullied, he was the fantastic member of the group to have to get our backs. And then usually Cher would keep us entertained at night, you know, sing a little song. Sometimes she would regale us with a song she had just written in the moment about our exploits. So, you know, we were quite the combo. You'd think at the surface that we wouldn't be the kind of people who would hang out with each other. But then you spend a day with us and you see that it was meant to be. Can't picture any other people as being part of our foursome.
And it's your science teacher, Mr. Thimble, who takes the biggest shine to the Get Along Gang, and in particular yourself. He has a huge impact on you through his teaching. He taught you how to do the domino cabbage experiment. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Mr. Thimble, I love him, man. He was absolutely the best. He taught me to think out of the box, to add new twists on things that already exist. And that's exactly what we did with the domino cabbage experiment. I mean, what do you get from dominoes anyway? Really not much. And I mean, Mr. Thimble was able, like, that's what he would always say. You take all of these things that people think are entertaining and see how you can up the ante a little bit. And we did just that. You know, after watching a few domino videos, you just come to the conclusion as you're watching them, like, where does this go? This doesn't lead to anything. In the end, you've just watched tiny little briquettes fall over in succession. And at the end, you're left with nothing. But he's the one to pointed out to me that, and I just had to keep thinking out of the box, and eventually we came to the conclusion to increase the size of the dominoes a little bit, enough so that they could take the weight of razor blades, which was a great modification to them. And if we lined up the dominoes in any kind of traditional fashion, you know, you can have the spirals, you can have them going up the stairs, wherever. But with the razor blades, as they fall off to the side, they can do something extra for the show as it was. And so that's why we came up with the idea of having the dominoes, but then lining up the cabbages so that as they fell, the razor blades would go and slice the cabbages in in a novel fashion. So not only are you left at the end of this with the show, with being able to watch these dominoes fall, but you're also left with like bite-sized vegetable pieces that you can then use in soups or salads. It's got an extra level of usage to it. So all of a sudden you're not just like, because who wanted that? Like, ooh, let's go watch the dominoes fall. Well, it's almost boring in its description right there. So it really helped to add this extra step to it, which then gave us all kinds of opportunities to do something afterwards. I mean, you're not going to put dominoes on a salad, but here you are now with extra little pieces of cabbage. And I haven't heard anybody complain. If anything, everybody is still in awe of these modifications.
The experiment itself is incredibly inspirational. And on the back of that, with Thimble's help, you start your own YouTube channel at the age of 14 and quickly gain thousands of followers with your veg-based science. Your new fame, though, brings you to the attention of your dad, who has just been released from jail on a technicality. We have a clip of Derek Brownbread around this time when confronted with CIA rumours. I'm just going to play it to you just now, JJ.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely fair. I didn't actually set out to kill JJ. I just needed a bit of practice before I did my first real job. Get back into the groove, if you like. I mean, you can't just go straight out there and kill the King of Spain, can you?
JJ, how did you feel when you heard that your dad had accepted a contract to assassinate you?
Oh, we're a very forgiving family. So initially, I was quite offended. It's weird. Some people thought that I should have considered it a compliment, considering apparently my father is very hard to hire. He's very in demand, very difficult. So some of my friends tried to spin it that way at first. Consider this a great thing. Of all the people to attempt to murder, my father had agreed on a contract for my life. And I've tried to see things that way. But slowly, as time has set in, I've come to the realization that it was quite offensive. Like maybe I should have been even angrier at him than I was at the time. But overall, it didn't happen. He failed in his attempt. So I feel I'm very close to my family emotionally and to all the people of my village. So in the end, I had to succumb to their general feeling, which is, of course, let bygones be bygones. You see families all over the world having small feuds with each other. Like I heard the Kardashians had an argument the other day about exactly who would be taking the funds from their latest makeup kit release. I mean, I hate to see them falling out over that. We're talking like that's important. That's a marketing and actual makeup kit. And for Kim and Kanye to be arguing over how that came to fruition and who gets the money for that. I mean, I can't imagine like what that family was going through. Here I am possibly holding a grudge against my father, and all he did was fail at trying to kill me. I mean, in the great scheme of things, it's not important, and it doesn't even make sense to get angry at something that didn't come to fruition.
And it didn't come to fruition, JJ, because he tried to sneak in. Let's just roll back for the benefit of people who don't know. He tried to sneak into recording of the JJ Science Blast, but his telescopic sight was affected by your beetroot smoke bomb experiment, and he was taken away by the FBI before he could fire off any shots. I mean, maybe he wouldn't have fired any at all. But a Clive Price from the Bureau contacts you and shortly afterwards asks if he can have some of your tricks to help thwart bad guys. Can you remember, did you give them anything, or did you give them any of your tricks? Or
Well, I agreed to work with them on because basically I have all of my tricks filed in my computer, and I release them as I see fit. So I did agree to work with them in future projects, but I'm able to address their situations individually. So if they come to me with something that makes absolute sense, if they want to raid somewhere, if they need one of my science tricks to apprehend somebody, I then gauge whether or not it's worth it. It's been an important step in the process, which I'm sure, like any entrepreneur and innovative sleuth would want. You want that security to know that all the things that I've worked so hard to determine, you want to protect these ideas. And it's hard to do. You can't just do a blanket sale of your entire catalog of tricks and just hand it over. Here you go. Do with it what you will, because that's quite scary, because that means bad things can be done in your name. So I'm very happy to say that I retained the rights to everything, but I am not afraid to work with them, and have done in the past. We've done several, shall we call them missions? We've done several events, excursions, missions together, which have had fantastic results for them, as you would expect when they're going to use my ideas. So, but it's been important. It's important to keep these kind of people at arm's length so that they don't abuse your work.
You leave school with no qualifications, loads of money, but no qualifications at the age of 16 after an offer to star alongside Al Pacino in a new Netflix series. What was it called and who did you play?
Yeah, Squeaky and the Hog. We went through a few iterations of this. I mean, it was such a huge compliment for him to want to do a show with me, as you know, because he's quite well known. He was quite well known before we even did the show. I'm not sure if you're aware, but he had built up a career himself, and he had started to gain enough notoriety. So when he joined me, I just said to him, I was like, I'm ready to play the character of Squeaky. And wow, that first meeting, and then he went for it. And the rest is history. And now he's quite a well-known actor. Ended up being a huge break for him. For me, it just continued my fame, my streak. But still, one of my favorite roles was playing Squeaky alongside him. Just what a great 2.5 seasons.
And on the set of Squeaky and the Hog, you become famous for your 3-line poems about cheese, which have the casts and stitches every time. Pacino used to always become angry because you would never do a poem about brie, which is of course his favourite. Was there any reason for that?
There's a really core reason for that. I can't, we always hark back to this because he always wanted to change it. We always butt heads about this. But one of the points of me being Squeaky was one of his character occasional flaws, I guess. Only if I got called out for it, or if I got trapped. But of course, Squeaky loves the squeaky cheese. So my character was obsessed with halloumi. I never saw any point to go outside of that. It's too important of a character detail. If I'm going to start the series being a halloumi, being a squeaky cheese obsessed character, I didn't see the need to break. And this whole brie conversation, that was the Hog's, that was his identity. I wish that, obviously we had a little bit of a falling out. It's quite our most famous falling out over the recording of the series, but I had to stand fast. I didn't want to, because people following the show had invested so much in this character, and it wasn't in Squeaky's character to ever like brie or any other cheese. We did that straight from the pilot episode. I'm sorry if I'm getting worked up here, but we started in the pilot episode, and he had signed on for it. I wish, in a way, we've put it to bed now, but I feel that it was one of the worst arguments of our stellar run on that show, but we just couldn't break. We wouldn't give. At one point he wanted to be the squeaky cheese lover, and that was we had to stop shooting on one day just to try to explain to him that these characteristics had been determined and decided. It's not time to just switch things around. People are going to notice the lack of continuity if all of a sudden the brie guy likes halloumi, and then the halloumi guy, who even has squeaky in his name, for crying out loud, and all of a sudden he likes brie. It wouldn't have worked. And I'm sorry that we fell out about, but I feel that he feels the same way, in retrospect. And we got past it.
After 2.5 seasons of Squeaky and the Hog, you quit, stating controversially, "Acting is not for me, it is more of a woman's thing." What did you mean by that?
Well, I regret saying that a little bit. But like I said, we had heated arguments, these heated cheese-based arguments, and they had built up over the time. And I'm sorry to say that that's the reason why I ended up leaving the show at that half season, was because they had hired a female actress to take my role. I'm not sure if you remember what happens in that at that 2.5 at the half series marker, but of course I went and had a full body, my character, of course, not me myself, but Squeaky, of course, went into that full body modification. You know, it was to follow up because 2 episodes previously I had the brain transplant of the female brain and everything. Like, Squeaky as a character was going through so much at that point. And then we were arguing offset, and so that's what was unfortunate, and that's why that might have came out of my mouth at the time. So I'm sorry for the way that it can be misinterpreted, what I meant, but what I actually meant at the time was that the character of Squeaky had evolved outside of my, not necessarily outside of my capabilities, because I'm sure I could have pulled it off in the long run, but I feel like in the moment it was the best thing to do. It was time for me to move on and hand the reins off to the very, very talented female actress who took the reins of Squeaky, and I think she did some amazing things with it.
So with the money that you've saved from Squeaky and the Hog, you fly to the UK to begin a short stint driving the Queen's Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Did Her Majesty, did she chat to you at all, or did you just drive in silence?
Oh, she liked to talk to me about like a few things. She's quite obsessed with my father's career, as you can imagine. So she loved hearing about the death squads and the murders and the various, and she's such a big fan. It's really interesting. You never know when you're going to run into a big fan of your father's work. But of course, she was obsessed with him, like down to, not only was she aware of all, like of each murder and everything, but she was also aware of the specific rugs that my father had used to wrap. And of course, that was a joy for me, you know, as I'm sitting in traffic with her on the M1. It was absolutely my pleasure, you know, to then relay exactly like what my mom was thinking with the design of each rug and how that came forward. It's very rare that when you run into people who want to fanboy out on my father's career, it's very rare that they're also aware of my mother's interactions, my mother, what my mother contributed to that history. And of course, the Queen is into both. And so you can imagine how we hit it off. You know, we were able to talk about the murders and everything she knew, and then all the other things that aren't public knowledge, which, you know, down to the details of each rug, each wrapping, and of course, sometimes where they might be hidden. She loves she's into her geolocation as well. She always wanted clues and stuff from me, and I was like, sorry, ma'am, that's the one thing I can't give you right now. But we can keep talking about my mom's talented rug weaving capabilities.
So this is massively shocking to me, Jason, because you obviously you bonded hugely with the Queen over your joint love of rugs, and yet you get sacked for attempting to sell the Queen's corgis. I mean, what made you think you could get away with it? Well,
so I was very misled. I was under the impression that she wanted to sell them. She loves her cocktails, the Queen, and I mean, my bad. I thought I was following through, but occasionally, if she's had more than her 2 daily cocktails, she does start to say things that she regrets in the morning. I wish I'd have taken that into account in the moment. But of course, she and I got shit-faced on the M1 once, just trying to kill time. We were just sitting there and started getting drunk, and then she suggested it. I regret not following up. You know, it's the kind of thing that you should double check. I keep that in mind in retrospect, but she so badly wanted me to take them and sell them in this moment. I took her for clarity of opinion at the time, and I just ran with it the next day. So you can imagine my regret when all of a sudden I get busted for it, and I tried to explain to her, you know, this is exactly what you asked me to do last night. And of course, my bad, I didn't realize that she was blacking out at the time, as she so often did. I don't know why I didn't take that into consideration. So it was one of the more regretful moments of my life. But once again, like I've already mentioned, like with my father, there's no point in getting upset or holding a grudge over something that didn't happen. So, Queen, I hope you'll forgive me, ma'am.
What were you guys drinking that the Queen got so slammed?
Oh, she loves her gin cocktails. So she's a gin lady all the way. In fact, what she often says to me when I ask her what she wants it mixed with, she says, I don't give a shit as long as it's 75% gin. That's commonly what she would say to me. So not a hard lady to satisfy. So you can just improvise basically for her with whatever you might have in the fridge or laying around, as long as you make short. All right, 2 cubes of ice and 75% gin. Then she's good to go. Doesn't even care.
And just as a point of order here, JJ, I don't have this in my notes. Were you trying to sell the corgis on eBay or at a market or through a shop? Or how are you trying to get rid of them?
Once again, terribly embarrassing. Like I said, I didn't fully think it out. Like sometimes when the Queen gives you a directive, sometimes it's important to just start on the mission. Start to try to accomplish it soon as possible for her. So I actually, in the moment when she had told me what she wanted done, I remember that evening, I got her to bed, put her to bed, and I didn't feel I had the time to try to set up an eBay advertisement or anything like that. I just hit the street. I grabbed them and hit the street. I remember walking, because they're quite easily portable. I had them in my hands, which of course is where I started to maybe cause a little too much attention than I needed. But it was the only strategy I could think, was to immediately start walking through the streets and offering the corgis up. I was able to hold them above my head, so that people in traffic could see them from... In my mind at the time, it was the best way for me to reach the most amount of people possible. Stand at an intersection, have the sign around my neck, Queen's Corgis for sale, and just display them as high as possible. Some people were honking. I think they misunderstood what I was trying to accomplish. But I got a lot of honks, but a few offers before it got put to an end. But that was my best approach at the time. I figured no point in taking this to the internet.
And unfortunately, because you've done it in such a public way, obviously you're pretty much straight to jail, just like your dad, Derek. But in a twist of fate, you are bailed out by US presidential hope Joe Biden, who doesn't just bail you out, but gives you $8,000. And you spent that immediately, JJ, on a comedy course run by notorious Ugandan despot Idi Amin. Now, he had no stand-up experience at all, but why did you choose to learn from a deposed dictator rather than an established comedian?
Well, it's funny that this has made it all the way to you, but this goes to my work with the CIA, actually. So the truth of the matter is that there was no comedy learning. It had nothing to do with comedy. I was actually deep undercover trying to establish contact with him on behalf of the CIA. And so the guise of it being a comedy course was just, as they like to say, it was a bit of a false flag to try to get people to look the other way. But the CIA just wanted me to get close to Idi Amin in any way possible. And this was the best strategy we could come up with at the time. And I feel it really worked out for us.
The rest is history, because being on that course, whether it's a cover or not, it obviously does you good. You get some great stage presence. You get some, sort of crazy, starey look that he teaches you. And you quickly become famous in the UK for your material on wheelbarrows. Can you remember any of the gags from your early sets on wheelbarrows?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Man, that was so much fun. That was the phase of my career where I was wearing the dungarees as well. I just used to come out with the dirt. I was such a big fan of, Gallagher in the 80s, who would smash the watermelons. He'd come out, everybody had to wear raincoats, and they'd start smashing the watermelons. And happy coincidence, isn't it? I take the course. I was there for very different motivations, of course, trying to get the job done for the CIA. But sometimes you learn things by coincidence, and it just takes over. And it just dawned on me with what I grew up loving, like Gallagher with the smashing of the fruit. I was trying to figure out a way I could revolutionize that kind of attitude, that kind of audience interaction. And that's why I decided to become that kind of gardening character and come on stage with the wheelbarrow, and just start throwing dirt at people. It was strictly dirt at first. That was how it all started off. Like, what's in the wheelbarrow? What's in the wheelbarrow? Like that great catchphrase that I would get everybody to chant as I came out. And then I would just use my little the little handheld shovel and just like start shoveling dirt at them. It's always in honor of Gallagher, who influenced my approach so much. Of course, we branched out to, as my career grew, started doing other things. But it all started with what's in the wheelbarrow and then just slinging dirt. Who knew that the audience, because at first I thought it might offend an audience more than bring them joy. I had seen Gallagher smash the watermelons and I saw the joy as the fruit like hit everybody. And I wasn't sure at first, I got to admit, and other people weren't sure. But, that first gig, I just went out there, what's in the wheelbarrow? And then, boom, started just smoking the front couple of rows with dirt. And, it's getting in their eyes and their face. And after they were initially shocked and angry, laughter came through. And, what a treat. What a treat. And then that's, of course, and then we just grew from there. Like, they had the peanut butter tour. They would all still chant, what's in the wheelbarrow? Even though it's on the title of the tour. It's the peanut butter. There's going to be peanut butter in the wheelbarrow. Anyway, but people played along and I would just sling the peanut butter at them for that tour. It was great. We tried so many things. The peanut butter tour did come to an end because of that nut allergy incident in in Glasgow that night. I didn't know that maybe I should be asking if people have nut allergies, but that was a little bit of a setback with the what's in the wheelbarrow approach. But we got it back, started doing Kool-Aid and fried chicken was good fun. That was a great one. So it all grows. You got to take your licks and continue to grow as an artist. Give the people what they want. And that's why I'll be returning to the classics. We'll be going with dirt again in the future because everybody loves it. Everybody loves a little dirt in the face.
The whole wheelbarrow tour, it leads you on, of course, to JJ Whitehead's Saturday Shuffle with the Fish. That earns you millions of fans, and the rest, of course, is history. I know that a lot of those chants still follow you around just now, but
all the time.
Do you still have Bobby Parrott, who used to appear on the show?
He doesn't work with us anymore, actually. It's a bit of a sore spot, but we've had to move on. I wish him all the best. We had some issues with him.
I don't want to finish on a downer, so we're going to finish with our traditional stand by or catch a ship section, which is, of course, it's quotes from your past, JJ, things that you've said in the past, and we're simply asking, do you stand by them? Do you still believe in these things? Or do you want to distance yourself? Are you catching a ship? And you can say the catchphrases, stand by or catch a ship, or you can expand a little bit if you like. Number 1, 5G should only be used by wizards.
I completely stand by this. All this hubbub about 5G, I feel it's outside of people's qualifications. This is the kind of magical thing that's come into our lives, delivering us signals. It's not for us to deal with or question. And so I stand by this firmly. It's none of our business. 5G should be left to the wizards.
And number 2, which you said in 1983, I would live in Moscow if they sold diluting orange juice.
I catch a ship on that one. I've realized since then, because that was one of my earlier trips to Moscow, and I thought that maybe diluted orange juice was the only thing that was missing. I didn't realize it was just because I was in love at the time. I was feeling quite affectionate towards another Russian lady, and I had a good couple of months living there. And I was in love with everything about Russia. She had that kind of magical hold on me. And of course, I felt at the time the one thing missing was that. But now, in retrospect, she broke my heart. And it still brings me back to thinking about these things. But yeah, my thoughts have definitely evolved on that. Russia's missing a lot more than just the orange juice.
Number 3, people shouldn't have kids if they can't afford to buy them drones.
I stand by it. I still stand by it. It's a good level of financial income. And it also, owning a drone teaches a child responsibility. Has them around dangerous blades at a young age, propellers. I can't tell you the number of children that we can section off from society. We can categorize them. If they're unable to operate a drone, then we know that they should probably maybe even be schooled separately. And I think this is an important thing for parents to take on board. Don't take on the responsibility of bringing a child into the world if you don't also have the spare income to see how they handle a drone. It's one of the greatest measurements of society now. So I still stand by that.
And finally, in this last section, number 4, salt and pepper are both selfish bastards.
I'll catch a ship on that one because this life is about growth. isn't it? So as much as I always felt that way, I have to say, like recently, I've started to rethink everything. Salt, I'm starting to come around to. I've realized that it's a flavor enhancer. And in fact, it's looking out for you. I still feel pepper is a selfish bastard. Because all pepper does is, it adds that kind of, what are you? Are you a spice? What are you? Sometimes it doesn't help. When you add pepper, pepper makes it all about itself. It's a kind of addition. It's subtraction by addition, I'd have to say. Because pepper makes a meal more arrogant. It's even got the arrogant approach. That's why a waiter comes over. The waiter doesn't come over with the salt, does it? Waiter comes over. Ooh, would you like some fresh pepper? Would you like some of this pepper? So pepper's a greedy, selfish, self-centered bastard. Whereas I'm starting to realize that salt, I'm sorry, salt. I'm sorry that I pigeonholed you. I'm sorry that I had a bad misconception of what you are. Salt is nothing but good. So I have evolved on that. I'll say they're only half bastard now.
You're standing by and catching a ship on that one, which is the first time it's ever happened on the show.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I guess.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I guess I half stand by, but I catch a ship on the fact that it's definitely not. They're definitely not entirely what I thought they were before.
And finally, you've, as our guests always do ahead of the show, given me what you want to happen at your funeral, and you've said you want to be cremated and then made into a smoothie. I mean,
yes.
Is that made into and then poured into the ground, or someone to drink you, or
how
does it unfold?
It's 100% for everybody to drink. That would be a terrible. Oh yeah, I wouldn't want that rumor to spread. I wouldn't want the smoothie to just then go into the ground. This is important for the spiritual continuance of all of us. I feel that we should be consumed by each other. I'm merely suggesting this as the device so that everybody attending your wake, your funeral, can then consume you. I mean, what would be better? Everybody leaving the funeral, has a piece of you inside of them. And I chose the smoothie as the portation device because I thought, who doesn't like a smoothie? If I chose other food, then you never know. Like if I went, cremate me and put me on a pepperoni pizza, but then all of a sudden you're not satisfying any vegetarians or vegans that might be at the funeral. I had to come up with something more universal, something that everybody loves. And let's face it, that's hard to do this day and age. Some people, people are picky about everything. Like I mentioned, like peanut butter allergies. Jeez, everybody's got their little bugbears. So that's why the smoothie. They wouldn't be huge smoothie. They'd all be nicely sized so that everybody can have a sip and know that I'm joining them in body for the rest of their lives. And hopefully they will then do that when they expire. And that way, that's building a better community with the knowledge as we look everybody in the eyes, knowing, you really do have your relatives inside you.
And as they take that little sip, as the attendees at your funeral take that little sip of smoothie, you want the tune to be playing to be Save Me a Seat by Scout. Can you tell us why you've gone for that tune?
It touches me inside, that song. It reminds me of a happier time. I was obsessed with that song for a good 5 years. It was the theme to the background of my life. This takes me back to my Russia days as well. But it was, I don't know, it's just got a really important place in my heart. And I mean, it's probably nothing special to you, but I mean, this is how we come to these decisions of like what to play at this moment. Since I first heard the song, whenever that was, 14, 15 years ago, it just touches me. It gives me a good feeling. And I know it'll give everybody else a good feeling at my funeral. And like I said, and who knows spiritually what may happen. I may be cremated, but my love for that song may come through in the energy and everything. Maybe people will feel it in the tiny atoms of myself that still exist inside these smoothies, and that song rings through the air. I think this isn't scientifically proven, but I'm not often wrong. I think that playing that song, coupled with the fact that people will have consumed the smoothies and have me inside them, I think it'll make them feel good.
JJ, thank you so much for coming on the show, and we play you out. We wave farewell to your blended body as it goes down the gullet of your funeral guests with Scout and Save Me a Seat.
stand and fight. Hey, sister, do you have the time or the energy to come with me and stand and fight? There's a one-in-a-lifetime chance to be here, and I'm pretty sure we made it, and I'm pretty sure we'll make it till next year. Pretty sure we'll go down in history. Pretty sure we will take the victory. Tonight we will solve the mystery and dance and sing until we can see the light. Too far. Who's to say you're falling behind? I'm pretty sure that your lips are risk of betraying your mind. Sit back and say life is unfair, oh it's unjust and unkind. While you pretend that you're not there, you're a risk of betraying. Hey brother, time or the energy to come with me and stand and fight. Hey sister, do you have the time or the energy to come with me and stand and fight? There's a one-in-a-lifetime chance to be here, and I'm pretty sure we made it, and I'm pretty sure we'll make it till next year. Pretty sure we'll get down in history. Pretty sure we will take the victory. Tonight we will solve the mystery and dance and sing until we can see the light of 1,000 houses, the light of 1,000 little things we love. From the top of our lungs we'll sing this song. With the light of 1,000 houses, the light of 1,000 little things we love. From the top of our lungs we'll sing this song. Chance to be here, and I'm pretty sure